Hi everybody, Zach here. We are doing a paint through of the Incarnate of the Deep. Games Workshop was awesome enough to send us an advanced copy of this model, so thank you GW. One of the fun things about painting this model is you get these two little tendrils that the Incarnate can summon in game, and they let you test out a lot of what you might want to try on the big model in advance on the smaller format. I'm actually painting this to match an existing Deepkin army. You can see my base here is kind of like a glowing tide pool of bioluminescence. So over top of a black primer, I'm going to be spraying Molotov white ink. Any kind of white ink will work through your airbrush. Think about covering a lot of the black, like 90%. We really want a nice white background for all of our vivid inks to show up through. You can see we're going to be using a lot of bright dollar roundy inks here. Like on my previous project, you see the bases here with these greens and these turquoises. So over top of white is how that's going to pop the most. Again, think about covering something like 90% of the black. Let a little bit of it peek through to give yourself some shading. But the more you cover, it'd almost be hard to cover too much. That's sort of what we're going for right here. You can see the black is there, but really it looks almost like it's a model that's been primed white. Before we get to the inks, we're going to paint the rocks that the Incarnate is coming up through. Night Lord's blue, Cantor blue, and here Lucerne blue as the final highlight. We're going to start the Night Lord's blue and just go right around the edges and the spots that we want to be sort of the very darkest. We're going to be doing a lot of back and forth on this model, both with the airbrush and brushwork, so don't panic too much if you don't like the way things look after one pass with one color. Believe me, we're going to be going back and forth quite a bit to get it just where we want it. You can see here though, I'm putting the Night Lord's blue sort of under rocks. One of the problems with this model is because we're painting a glowing water effect, light is kind of coming from all angles. This is one of the reasons we will be going back and forth so much, kind of seeing where we want lightness and where we want darkness. Cantor blue is actually the color of the thing, as I like to say, meaning that if you would say what color did you paint the rocks, we would say we painted the rocks Cantor blue. Night Lord's blue is the shade where we want things darker, and Lucerne blue is how we're going to highlight up. So get a lot of coverage with the Cantor blue. You can see I've switched to a Sotar, it's like a medium airbrush, but you could really do this with any airbrush too. While we've got it, I figure load it up in the airbrush, I'll go ahead and paint my base rim. For my Deepkin army, my base rims are actually Cantor blue. So there we go, that's nice and easy to do. After that, last step on the rocks, Lucerne blue to build up some highlights. We're just hitting a few places where we think we want like the natural ambient light, you know, the ever-present glowing light above the battlefield to light things up for us. Now remember, we're going to also need to get some glowing effect from the water itself, since we said it's like this green bioluminescence, and that's what this final pass of white is for. Anywhere we're adding white, we're later going to be adding the ink. So under the rocks here, from the water glowing up, on top of some of the rocks from the wave and the Incarnate itself. Just kind of be selective. Honestly, I hate to say it, but just have fun with it. I know that's not always helpful, but there's glow coming from everywhere in this model. This is sort of what we want it to look like right before we start getting in here with the ink. If you did the tendril first, check it out, see what you're going for if you like what you had. We're going to start with marine blue. This is a dark dollar roundy ink. Dark blue, then we're going to move on to turquoise, and finally light green, very vivid color here. The dark blue is going to go on the underside of some of the waves. You see here some of the little extra bonus tendrils that come on the Incarnate itself. Remember, there's going to be lots of back and forth here, so don't sweat it if you don't like where things end up, and white is your eraser. If you need to get rid of some of this blue, you can always go back with white. I'm getting some of the areas inside here as well. And like I said, mostly underneath, up along the side of the Incarnate. I'm not going to use too much of the dark blue on the top part of the Incarnate, but I will use it here in some of these creases. And this is what maybe I'm kind of most excited to show you. The top of the Incarnate has these kind of ribs almost. I'm going to go ahead and start the shading process with marine blue. On the back side, if we're looking at the front of the Incarnate's face, looking at him from the face, I'm hitting the backs of these ribs with some of this marine blue. We're gonna move on to turquoise next. This is a major player in the color of the water. So one, I go right along the edges. This is actually the color of water I like to think is more shallow. There's less of the bioluminescent creatures kind of hanging out in this area on these tide pools where my Deepkin are hanging out. But I'm also using the turquoise up into the wave. You can see here, like I said, it's kind of one of the major colors along with the green. And there I go hitting the rib part, the front of the rib part with the turquoise. Get all up through here. Remember, we can always go back, and we will be going back with different colors. Here is the light green. Gosh, I love this color. Maybe my favorite doll around color. Okay, I'm filling in the base. You might be doing something different for your base, of course, but mine is gonna have a resin pour over top of it, and it's gonna look like a tide pool, like a shallow kind of tide pool. So all the spots that are left white on the base are getting light green. And then, no surprise, I'm also going up and down all over the Incarnate itself. Any spot that's left white has got to be turned green. After this, there'll be no white spots left on this model. Everything will either be kind of this marine blue, turquoise blue, or this green. I love the way these greens and these blues go together. Right up the spine, I want it to be kind of this striking green color. And along the, for lack of a better word, these wave rib cage ripples. This is actually a really great project if you're either just starting to airbrush with like a larger size airbrush, because you can do most of this with something like a Badger Patriot or an Iwata Eclipse. But it's also a great project if you are looking to upgrade to a more fine detailed airbrush. I used 3 different airbrushes on this project. Here in the beginning stages, I focused a lot on a medium airbrush, the Sotar. And we're blending these colors. Now we're going back. This is actually, speaking of different airbrushes, this is the Highline Iwata. This is a fine detail airbrush. And here I am with the marine blue. Going back and re-darkening some areas I thought got maybe a little too vivid, a little too bright. Here comes the turquoise now. We're basically cycling back, repeating the process. Oh, spill. That got cleaned up, don't worry. Along the top here, more detail, bringing up a little bit the value with this turquoise. Back and forth as much as you need. Don't overdo it. You could spend a week doing this. And we still have all of the brushwork to do yet. So this is absolutely a model you could spend a long time on. Here, setting up for the brushwork. I said there's no white left. Well, I want my water foam to be white, so we're getting a jump on this. With the Highline, we're able to cover some parts that are going to need to be brushworked. This is just gonna speed that process along. We have to do brushwork here to bring all the little foamy white parts back. And if there are any that are on the larger side, I just went ahead and hit them with the Highline. Again, a fine detail brush, but it's gonna make things go so much faster once I get to my brushwork. That's actually it for the airbrushing. We're gonna hit it with a coat of ultra matte varnish. We're gonna be handling this model a lot as we move on to brushwork, so if I can prevent some of the paint coming off, not a bad thing. Here's what we're looking at after all the airbrush work. Looks pretty lovely. Now on to brushwork. This is what we are starting with. We've got all this little water here. You can see on my Eidolon, I have painted off that. A lot of Deepkin players don't paint that. It is a total pain in the butt, but frankly, I just think it looks so much better when you do it. I use Abtalong heavy body artist acrylic to do this. It does not have kind of like coverage issues. It's just nice and thick. Definitely use a wet palette. You're actually gonna end up thinning this paint. And this is an arduous and tedious process. You're gonna be here for a while. Make sure you've got a good brush for the job. Settle in with a nice movie. Join our Discord, by the way. We do hobby hang in there. If you need some company, want to meet some real goofballs, but also get some great painting advice. Here we've moved on to the teeth, which we're also doing with the Abtalong white. This thing has sort of a lot of teeth on, guess what? Both sides, believe it or not, of its mouth. There's the other side. The white work, brushwork you're doing here on this model, you can see here I go again. You could spend weeks on this and you can make it look amazing. I am totally anticipating seeing this model pop up in some Golden Demon entries. It's such a cool model. And this water effect here that they've sculpted onto the model itself, like I said, you could spend forever on it, finding new places, messing with different levels of opacity. Now I said we'd be going back and forth. Here I am doing a little bit of cleanup with the high line, a little bit of turquoise. Now, really important here, to prevent yourself from going totally crazy, maybe have a reference picture. What do you want this thing to actually end up looking like? That will give you a sense of when it's time to move on to the next step. Like I said, over and over again in this video, I was constantly tempted to just spend longer and longer on each step. We only got this model about 6 weeks in advance. I probably could have spent 3 months on it. After you are mostly happy with the white, I used a watered down version of Colia green shade. Does anybody know how to actually pronounce that? Tell me in the comments, but I used a very watered down version to kind of build some contrast between the white and the ink colors I have put in. Then I took Absalom white and did a gentle dry brush on some of the higher white areas and some of the parts sticking out more. Here is a Absalom white mixed with the light green to do a little edge highlight. When you're finally happy with the water, you get to do the fun part, which is paint all these little barnacles and starfish and skulls that are all over the base. You may have an existing Deepkin army, then there's something here that you want to do. I like to find a color that pops. For me, these were pinks and yellows. You saw there my Gloomtide Shipwreck. I'm matching the barnacles I did on that. Typically, I'm just doing a little bit of layer painting, a little bit of shading, a little bit of highlighting. Here, I'm glazing over with pink, this scallop shell that's inside of the Incarnate. There's a cool pearl you get to paint. These might have supposed to be like dark mussels, but I actually painted them like a little succulent plant. Sybarite green. I then did a wash into them, give them a little bit of shading as well. Honestly, once again, I hate to say it, have fun with it. Whatever colors you have going on already, but it is a good place to put a different color. You can see the pinks and yellows really pop. Last thing, oh gosh, so annoying. There is a net on the back of this thing. I used a diluted rattling grime here, and you can see I actually want the kind of natural greens and turquoises of the net to peek through. Again, remember, this is glowing water that I'm doing here, so I didn't mind the fact that the rattling grime kind of just covers over this glow. Less so over here where it's dark blue, and that is, for the most part, the Incarnate of the Deep. Now to finish it off, I hit it with a matte varnish, of course, one last time, and then I used AK Still Water. This is a beginner's water effect. It actually stops, for the most part, once it hits the edge of the base, so it won't leak over. It kind of forms a meniscus there. You see it? Let it dry, and this is what you end up with. It looks great. It's super easy product to work with. I promise you it won't bite. There he is, the Incarnate of the Deep on my bioluminescent tide pool base with my resin pour. Hope you enjoyed it. Like, subscribe, share around. Dip in for one of our battle reports. You'll see this guy on the table if you see Deepkin as one of the armies.